Hello and welcome to MoteCon 2023. I'm Will Jackson. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Mote, and this is our third MoteCon. I am really excited about what we've got in store. So for those of you who don't know, we've got 4 sessions coming up. We've got a session right now, and I'll tell you more about that in a moment. Then we've got another session coming up later today, starting at I think 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock Central Time. I'll confirm. And we've got 2 more sessions coming up tomorrow. So there's a lot of content. And each one is going to be hosted by one of our incredible Mote ambassador leaders. The first of which is Alex Isaac. So I'm going to be introducing Alex briefly. But for those of you who don't know Alex, he is one of the most engaging, creative. Here he is. Hey, Alex. I was going to say some really nice things about you before you joined, but I'm going to have to say.
I couldn't take the anticipation. Well, I had to just jump right in, but I'll still let you give me a brief intro.
Okay, well, first off, Alex, as well as being a party crasher, he is one of the most, I think, creative and inspiring educators. He's done some amazing things, app smashing. If you haven't followed him on Twitter, you should. He's got some really creative ideas combining apps like Mote, but with a bunch of other really awesome technologies. So Alex is one of our founding Mote ambassador leaders, and I couldn't be happier to have him here as a host. So Alex, hello.
Well, what a start, Will. Hello. I can't even handle the plan that we actually had. I jump onto the screen because I'm so excited to be here at MoteCon 2023 with everyone in the chat, everyone who's viewing, everybody who's going to be presenting over the next 2 days. I've been excited for this for weeks. I cannot wait to share some great ideas while also kind of mix it up with some amazing ed tech leaders over the next couple of days, my friend.
It's going to be great. Genuinely, I think we've got an incredible lineup of presenters over the next couple of days. And I think you are going to be kicking us off right now with your own session, right? So I'm gonna fade into the background here, and I'll be back maybe to help with the Q&A in a few minutes. But over to you, Alex. And again, let's kick off MoteCon.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate it. So, Will, if you want to share my screen right now, I have my Wakelet collection pulled up. So again, I'm Alex Isaacs. I'm very excited to be here today. If you'd like to just scan a welcome message, it's right there available to you. One of the great uses of Mote is being able to have a QR code and get that audio out to people who are viewing it or scanning it. So I have really a Wakelet collection filled with resources for you, whether you are an expert with Mote or just starting off. So if you scan the QR code on this landing page, it will bring you to this Wakelet collection. I'm going to be sharing it later on Twitter X and probably Instagram as well. But I'm an ed tech specialist in the Long Branch Public Schools District in Long Branch, New Jersey. I'm at Mr_Isaacs_math. That's a lot to say. And I would love to connect on X and Instagram. All of Mote's social media pages are available on the right side. And as Will said, I'm a Mote certified educator, ambassador, and ambassador leader, and I couldn't be more proud. Mote is really a platform that is in my top 2-3 ed tech tools for so many different reasons, but mostly because of the impact I saw it have on my practice and my students' progress in math. So for me, these are just some of my reasons why Mote is a go-to for me. It's one that I have to incorporate into my practice. Now, something that's really nice that you're just going to see throughout my presentation is you're going to see how Mote integrates into different platforms. And this is actually a Canva embed on this Wakelet collection, where if you go in here and hit play, you'll be able to get a little bit more in-depth understanding of what I've really done with this platform over the years. But these are some of my main thoughts as to why I just absolutely love the platform. It's saving me time. It's giving me more meaningful feedback to my students. I've even dropped Mote messages to my partner Lois around Christmas time when I was sick with COVID. So it does filter its way into my private life as well. It's accessible and inclusive for all learners. It's making materials elevated, integrates seamlessly into many websites, and it really is going to help build that caring classroom community, plus excellent homeschool connection. The built-in transcript ability that can be translated by others, multilingual learners and their families. It's second to none, and I really feel like that allowed me to get a lot further with my students when I taught math at Red Bank Middle School. So if you did miss our sessions, our pre-conference sessions with the amazing Christina Holzweiss and Eric Kurtz, they are available in this collection. We'd love for you to check those out. Eric did an amazing presentation that combined both Mote and Conquer, which we'll also be getting into today later on. And then Christina talked about ways of really elevating your library with Mote and did an amazing job just picking out some entry-level activities that could be used by everyone. So at this point, the theme of my session is about amplifying, enhancing creativity. I think that that is basically all I'm known for these days. So I'm trying to work on losing the word amplify so much. But I really do believe in giving our students those creative opportunities so that they're able to shine. So this is, again, this is Wakelet and Mote, probably my two favorites that integrate perfectly together, where I recently created an interactive timeline template, an example that I'm going to share with you right now. So you can see that I have built-in Mote messages that are lovely players right here that if I click play, I don't think that I'm sharing audio, so I'm going to stop it right there. But what you will see when I mute this is that you will see my transcript coming up right there for you to read. So really enhancing that accessibility in one space. And again, the fact that it integrates with Wakelet where you don't even have to jump to a landing page is just a real difference maker for me. But as you scroll down, I have examples of different column titles that you can use. And I always really believe in providing examples to my learners, my colleagues, everything else. So this is a Mote interactive timeline that I created that could kind of be used as an alternative assessment as compared to a basic report on a, on a famous historical figure. So you could see that basically through each of the different portions of JFK's, very famous life, I provided some type of Mote explanation. But it doesn't have to end with simply an explanation. Students could take on the accent of whatever character that they're adding in and use Mote to have it kind of be a very low pressure way of presenting themselves, presenting content in new and innovative ways. So you can see I've got YouTube and I have Mote. I took the speech, the space race, we choose to go to the moon speech. And then in addition to providing that for viewers, I also provided why it was impactful, how it impacted people at that time. And then the best thing, I did have the opportunity to present this previously at a Wakelet session, but my dad, he's going to be 70 this year, this fall. He was able to produce and embed a Mote message. My man, Dave Isaac, so I love him so much. He was able to do this. So you're going to hear a lot of people over the next 2 days talk about how simple it is to use this. A 70-year-old soon-to-be man was able to do this, embed it in, and share his ideas, his memories, his feelings from the day of JFK being assassinated. So this is an excellent way to really bring historical figures to life. And I'm going to share another activity that does that as well in just a few moments. So this is the type of collection where you can come in, make a copy of it, and then you're able to edit it to fit your needs. And what I'm going to lead this into is actually a Mote autobiography. Now, I'm offering you this as a Google Slides template, but you could incorporate this into a Wakelet just as easily. But what I really want to share with you is it's back to school time. We're all looking for activities to get to know our students. And what I was thinking about with this Mote interactive timeline, and I provided you instructions. There's actually a tutorial video, I believe, on the Mote Learning Zone. I'm providing you an opportunity to let your students, your kids, really chronicle their life in a very interactive and more meaningful way. And I kind of went back and forth between providing samples to you and also providing you template slides. So for me, I actually went back to my first home in New Jersey and took a picture of it. I included my birth certificate that is linked, but I also included these different Mote players that allow me to provide a little bit more of an explanation about me where you can get to know me. And again, that is almost like an extension within the extension where when you're in Google Slides, you go to open the Mote recorder. So sometimes you get that where you have to log in. I can do that in between sessions and we'll be fine. But the great thing about this is that if you scroll over, whether or not you have the extension installed, you can click play and you're going to hear that person who recorded the Mote message. So I have it where you could talk about your birth and early life. You could talk about your high school years, depending on how old your students are that you want to get involved. And then I also incorporated a SMART goals template into this where, I set a goal for becoming an EdTech specialist in Red Bank. Unfortunately, that didn't happen, but I was lucky enough to get the opportunity to work with my amazing partner, Lois, in Long Branch. And it just really allowed me to get more in depth, build that connection with anybody who chooses to want to learn more about me. And I shared this with my students this year so that they could better get to know my goals and my dreams. And then I also incorporated into this template a family interview. Now, again, I bring up my dad because he's not the most tech savvy guy. I've had to do some amazingly long troubleshooting sessions with him over the phone. But at the same time with this, you can have a visit to a family member who experienced this time that you're talking about, or someone in your life that you simply want to get more of what you learned about yourself when you were a baby or a young child. I provided you 8 different questions here that I think would be great. I can guarantee grandparents would love these questions. They would be out of their minds to be like, oh my God, my grandchild's coming to me asking me about what you remember when I was a baby. So all you would do is really just interview that person, and you would record a Mote and then bring it in, and you would have this as like an interactive interview that you could share with anyone, and then place a picture of whoever you interviewed so you can really get that familial type or that connection with others. So I would love to see people making copies of this template. And I've got to compliment Will. He was so kind about this template, saying that, love the use of this. And I never really promoted this one fully on any social. So this is really the first time that I'm talking about this. And I'm just so excited to really share this. Hope you make a copy of it and have your students really shining, sharing more about themselves. Now, the next opportunity that I'm going to share with you is a Mote Wax Museum. Now, this is something that I don't know how familiar everybody is with a Mote, with a wax museum, excuse me, but basically what it is a student mimics being a person from history that was important, or really anybody that would be worth memorializing, so to speak. So this was actually released this week on the Mote Learning Zone. Very proud to be contributing to that amazing space of ideas. And basically, I also included what it takes to learn more about a wax museum. So that's available to you here, right in this Wax Museum project link. It will explain it to you. But basically, students are going into a gym or a cafeteria or some collaborative space where parents and guardians can visit. And there's usually like a little red button in front of them. And then the kid will have to either read or kind of glance at a note card and then kind of say their lines. Now, I'm speaking from my experience, both at a Catholic school and a public school with learners from anywhere between 3rd to 8th grade. I feel like having to be on with multiple people, pressing the same button over and over again, reading that same script. I feel like not only can that be repetitive, but it's also kind of nerve-wracking for that student. So what I really tried to do was make it more accessible, allow students to take that agency with what they're going to produce before an actual project gathering where their parents are coming in. And I kind of just labeled different parts of a historical figure's life that a student could then create a QR Mote and then place it in. Now, let's put it this way. You want to hear me act like I'm Walt Whitman? I created a bunch of QR Motes just for you kind of see it in action. But think about the creative opportunities that we would be giving our students where they wouldn't have to be doing it live in real time. They'd be able to simply focus on offering more choice to people who are attending the event. Because what I did is I kind of threw out some different ideas over here on the right side of the screen where you could link a QR code to their paper on the historical figure. You could link it to a different type of game, maybe a Conquer AI quiz, Will. I'm sure you're smiling backstage right now. Maybe we could link a Conquer AI quiz that relates to your historical figure. So there's just so many different opportunities that are going to come about with that prepping, that ability to just say, you know what, I'm going to press a record button and I'm simply going to be able to record my message and then embed it as a QR code. I don't have to be on. I don't have to be repetitive. I don't have to have those couple of people who go, I'm going to press on the button really quick over and over again to make you start and stop. I've seen all of this as a teacher in my years. I felt for kids who had to deal with that and be under that pressure. So I feel like this is a great middle ground where if you scan those QR codes, you're giving people choice at a wax museum. I love giving attendees choice where, all right, I want to hear about his later years. I'm going to scan that portion. I want to see this, this talk about why he was important. I'm going to scan that one. So I really would encourage you to check this one out. Make it your own. If you are doing a wax museum this year, I would love to kind of see how that would go using that template. So another one that and again, I'm getting way ahead of myself. I can fully appreciate that there's a lot on this Wakewood collection. Take one thing to start, and I'll get into a call to action in a little bit, but take one thing away from this and say, you know what, I like that. Take that getting to know you activity away and get your students on here using the platform. When I was speaking with Christina the other day at the pre-session, one of the first things I did with my students was said, you know, I just told them, make a funny Mote message. I don't care about anything content-based. Keep it appropriate. Make it funny if you choose to do so. I want to hear from you. I want you to get on this platform. And before I knew it, I'm hearing stories about birds that flew away and all kinds of things. People sending me Mote messages when I was ill. It was just a really great connection with my students this last year at Red Bank Middle School. But for Mote Music Mondays, I'm kind of going with an ELA-centric type of template. And I did include the video walkthrough that I presented on this template right here embedded in, so you don't have to go far to see my rationale if you missed this session and you want to get more in depth. But basically, my rationale for this template is we're always trying to make connections with our students to connect the material we're learning at school to the real world. Well, I think I created a template here that really allows students to say, you know what, I just heard that in that song. I'm now going to kind of make that parallel between a literary device concept and music or a movie or a show. So basically what it is you're going to use this template to embed a YouTube video player for a song that represents some type of literary device. Now, in my case, I can't think of anything more recognizable, although I don't know about our friends in the UK, how much they know about Rocky. I would assume they do, but maybe not. I think that Eye of the Tiger is maybe one of the best, you know, songs that just incorporate so many different examples of literary devices. So I always believe in providing people who are going to take the risk of using a tech tool of, again, providing examples. And you can see that I've built in multiple types of choices for what students are going to contribute to. For those of us who are really trying to get our kids to contribute to a conversation, give them options that are all kind of related to the similar topic, but allowing them to share something that they're comfortable with. So basically, this is what a sample slide would look like, where I embedded the player. I also included the song lyrics to be more accessible. And I have another Mote player message that's giving instructions to my students who are going to make a copy of this template, or simply go into a group template that we're all going to collaborate on, record their Mote message to one of these 4 examples, and then simply click and drag their player into the box. Where then, as a teacher, I would be doing at morning meetings for each week. Let's listen to some of our highlighted responses from our students, where again, students wouldn't have to be on the spot. They'd be able to do this ahead of time and wouldn't have to be under that level of pressure. And once again, on this one, I have some higher education ideas, high school ideas, where let's let students create. Let's let the students make the connections themselves, where they're listening to their favorite song by the people that I don't enjoy, because I'm very old at this point. And they are picking out a song and then naming the literary device that represents in the lyrics that they're listening to. So I think that this is a great idea to really try with students who are very musical, but students who, you know, let's say that they're watching television and they kind of notice that as well. That could kind of be incorporated in, even though the alliteration of Mote Music Mondays might change a little bit. So a lot of different options for you here. On both of these different slides, I kind of gave you different examples that you could incorporate with your class for literary devices. Now, let's keep it real. I'm an ex-math teacher. This could be translated to a math version so easily. It could be translated to a science version so easily, simply by asking students to take a picture of something that they found in the real world that represents the concept or the ideas that they're learning currently. And then they explain why that's the case. So that's another one. I would love to see some ELA teachers this year give that a try. Now, the last thing that I'm going to talk about, and then I'll give my call to action and everything else, is a Motecratic seminar. And a lot of my rationale for this one is very similar to the Mote Wax Museum. That pressure that a lot of our kids are feeling these days, especially since the hybrid and remote learning years, I don't want them to feel that level of pressure if they prove to me that they understand the content, they're competent with it, and that they're engaged and enthusiastic. So basically, and I'm not going to get completely into this, I give a lot bigger rationale and explanation on this template simply because a Socratic seminar is kind of it's kind of involved. It takes a lot. There's a lot of moving pieces. You're getting kids to participate. And the thing that I've seen in the Socratic seminars that I've run is you've got those same people in the fishbowl participating. I want to be able to get that planning in, that preparation period in before those sessions, so that if I feel like the participation is only coming from the people in the fishbowl, I could go into some Mote messages that are available on these slides that I could simply play and then present to my class. So really, this is one that you can kind of have an initial reaction slide to the song lyrics or a portion of a book, whatever you're doing with your class. And then you could almost treat those 6 boxes in the bottom right corner as your inner circle. So I provided you a roadmap of how I would kind of work through this. And there's still going to be that in-person aspect. This is not becoming some type of hybrid or remote type of project. This is simply where you're combining the best of both. You're enhancing your instruction. You're building up what you're already doing great by getting your kids more comfortable with the material and giving them the opportunity to shine in a way that's comfortable for them. So I gave you an example. Feel free to use this one. I would love to see it. It's an excellent song that the lyrics kind of promote this feeling of melancholy and sadness. But, then when you play the song, it's actually kind of joyous and promising. So I really think that this would be a great way. You can get into part 2 with response to the Mote messages that their classmates left. And then I kind of again offer different props where now students would just drag their player into whichever column they were responding to later on in the project. So this one is rather involved. I think that if you were really able to watch a Socratic seminar, I feel like that's kind of important to make this successful. But I also included a link on, I believe, a sample one for you to use. And you can even end it with a reflective activity, where I think that that's one of the most important things that kids are lacking these days. That ability to reflect on their own work and provide appropriate feedback to their classmates. So this would really give them that opportunity to do that. So I also included a Mote annotations and micro essay activity that involves Google Docs. I have 2 of the templates that I've created that I've kind of shared previously at Mote events, but I still feel really passionate about them, between this certificate template that I really do hope to bring to Long Branch Public Schools this year to really honor our students who go above and beyond. And I also have it where you can make a copy of a positive feedback Google form to really establish that system with your students for rewarding great behaviors and characteristics. Now for me, I've got to give a shout out to everybody who's kind of been doing webinars recently, because I see that there's call to actions. I presented a bunch of fancy purple stuff. What now? What are we going to do with that information? So my call to action for everybody who's watching the replay, live, whatever, even maybe some of my Mote friends out there, is to visit that Mote Learning Zone, which I linked for you right here. And I want you to take one idea away to use in your class in that beginning month of school. So whether you're in Cali and you're just about to start, I think the UK kind of just ended school, but they're going to be coming back soon. If you're in Jersey like me and Lois, and you're going back in about 2 weeks, come in here, take a look at some of the amazing ideas that are not just by me, but by our other amazing Mote ambassador leaders. We go all the way back to Greg and other amazing individuals who were a part of this. Sue Trankina, I totally blanked there briefly, but so many great ideas that you can implement, and they are so easy to implement in your own class with your students. I also provided you some resources. If you are unfamiliar to Mote, never created an account, you'll be able to get a 60-day free trial of Mote Unlimited by clicking on this link. I did link the extension page on the Chrome Web Store, and then I'm promoting everybody. Take the time to go through the course modules on Mote. Your students will be glad you did. The guardians, their parents will be glad you did, because of how accessible everything is going to be as a result of this platform. We also have mine and Lois's collection from last year's MoteCon that incorporate other ideas. And if you want to get a sneak peek at what Lois and I are going to present a little bit later on today, we also have that collection. But all I could say is I'm absolutely thrilled to be a part of MoteCon once again. This is a platform that's very near and dear to my heart. And I just hope that everybody who's watching, again, whether it be live or a recording, I hope you can take one thing from here and follow that call to action. I'm challenging everybody out there. Take one idea, give it your best shot with your kids, And let's see what we can do this year with Mote while making some Mote magic in and out of the classroom. So Will, did the best I could. I'll be nervous about hosting the next session, but couldn't be more thrilled to present and just share with the world how excited I am about using Mote in the new school year in Long Branch and beyond.
Alex, I think I wish it had a word count, because I think you broke some kind of like world record there for how much content you fit into a 20-minute presentation. That was incredible. I think the most important thing is that you covered some incredible applications here, like really, really interesting. As you know, that autobiography one is possibly my favorite ever application of Mote. Full stop. I really think it's a fabulous tool, and I would love to see folks use that and share their experience and what their students bring along. But I think we're almost out of time, and I don't know if there are any questions that have just come in. Anyone? Yeah.
I see that Mel said I speak fast, and it's so enthused. I know I speak fast. I got to jam a lot of stuff into a very short amount of time as best I can. But again, there's a lot of videos embedded in. I'll try to work on that, Mel. We'll see what I can do. But there's a lot of resources available.
The link is there, and I think now we have a link for folks who want to get a certificate, I think, for attending this session. So that's embedded also in the Wakelet collection. Is that right?
No, Will, that's actually going to be on that video that we play at the end. It's available.
Okay, brilliant. Yes, thank you. So without further ado, I'm gonna cut away. We're gonna give everyone a few minutes break, and we'll be back with Maureen Lamb, our next presenter, and Alex, you'll be introducing Maureen. So thanks so much, Alex. That was an incredible tour de force. Brilliant. And we'll see everybody back. Well, don't go away. Go get whatever refreshments you need, and be back here in about 3 minutes for another fantastic MoteCon session.
All right, we're back, everybody. Welcome to our first block of sessions at MoteCon 23. Please drop your name, role, and location and get involved in the conversation. Our next guest today will be talking about an important topic of assessment in education, where she'll share how to create a meaningful feedback cycle between teachers and students. I'm excited to introduce Maureen Lamb. Here she is. Let's bring her up to the screen. Maureen, pleasure to kind of meet you today at MoteCon 2023. Please introduce yourself to the many fans out there, and let's get this thing started.
Awesome. Hi, my name is Maureen Lamb. As it says by my title, I'm a Latin teacher, but I'm also the Dean of Faculty and the Dean of Academic Technology and Innovative Pedagogy at the Ethel Walker School in Simsbury, Connecticut. I'm super excited to be here. Mote is one of my favorite technology tools. And I think that for a lot of my students, my use of Mote has been transformative, but also I think it can be helpful for your students. And I want to tell you some of the ways that you can use Mote to help your students, especially surrounding assessment.
Well, I'm very excited, especially today where we're really trying to get into making feedback more meaningful with our students. They need that guidance and in a timely manner. And I'm sure you're going to knock it out of the park showing how Mote can do that in so many different ways. So I'm going to be backstage. So bye for now, Maureen. Best of luck. I'm sure you're going to rock it, and keep me posted if you need anything. Best of luck.
Thank you so much. All right. So let's talk a little bit about how Mote can support the 5 F's of assessment. And when I'm talking about the 5 F's of assessment, I'm just talking about something that I came up with that I use to help ground me when I'm thinking about assessment. And I don't know about you, but I have found that assessment has been something that my students have been struggling with the last few years. I don't know if it's because of COVID or just because there's so much pressure on students through social media and all sorts of different things. But I find that sometimes around assessment, students freeze up and students have a lot of trouble. And so while thinking about that, I've been using different technology tools to help my students become better prepared for assessments, but I've also tailored assessments to try to help students to have a better experience when it comes to assessment. And so hello. And I want to make sure that my students feel supported and my students have opportunities to give me feedback and that I can give them feedback. So if you take nothing else away from this, strong feedback loop. That's what you need with your students in order to help them feel more supported around assessment. Because assessment is scary in sometimes. And I think it's because you really are showing what you know about something. But how do we make it so that it's not scary for students, that it's more of like a progress check-in, that it's more of a feedback? Because really the purpose of assessment is to give students feedback. And so let's dig into this just a little bit here. And so I'm going to introduce myself just quickly. I'm the Dean of Faculty and the Dean of Academic Technology and Innovative Pedagogy at the Ethel Walker School in Simsbury, Connecticut. Yay, Connecticut. I'm also a graduate instructor at Idioma Education and Consulting, where I do graduate classes on Latin pedagogy, world language pedagogy, differentiation and neurodiversity, and also on instructional technology. If you'd like to follow me on X, I think that's what we're calling it. I'm at Latin Tech Tools, and I'm also going to be on Blue Sky at Latin Tech Tools. So please welcome. I welcome feedback. I welcome messages. Like, let me know what you think. If you have questions, feel free to reach out. And so why 5 F's? Because frankly, I'm someone who remembers things if I have a little device to remember it. And so when I'm thinking about assessment, I want my assessment to have 5 elements. I want my assessments to be familiar to students. They know what to expect with the assessment, and they also know when that assessment is. I want assessment to be something that's frequent. And I know that a lot of us have many, many students. And so doing frequent assessment can seem overwhelming. It can seem daunting. However, I would argue that you don't need to necessarily do in-depth grading for every assessment. And also, when you're giving frequent feedback, you can do things like emojis, or you can use your Mote book to give different kind of voice feedback. So there's a lot of different ways you can give feedback. When I'm thinking about flexibility when it comes to feedback, I think that a lot of what it is that students need to feel like they have some sort of ownership, they have some sort of agency here in terms of what they're doing with their assessment. And so whether that's giving students choice, whether that's letting them choose how they're being assessed, what they're being assessed on, things like that, giving them some sort of flexibility. Maybe they can retake their assessment. Maybe you're giving them a pre-assessment so they can go over it first. There's a lot of different things you can do here. Focused. I would argue that when you can focus on just a few things at once, you are going to have a more reliable feedback loop of how students are doing with those particular tasks. And so then you can give them accurate feedback on their skills. So keeping it focused to maybe 1 or 2, possibly 3 skills max is something that's going to really help refine your assessments. And finally, looking at assessment is not something that's punitive, not something where students are like, oh, well, you get this grade and this is the grade you earn and that's it. No, seeing it more like a feedback loop with your teacher, something where you are getting that feedback and it can help you. And so the first thing we're going to talk about is familiar assessments. So students need to be familiar with both how they will be assessed and the material they'll be assessed on. There should be no gotcha moments. There should be no surprises. I think that when you walk in and you hear there's a pop quiz in class, all of a sudden that does something to you. That makes you feel, oh no, there's an oh no reaction. We don't want that. We don't want assessment to equal danger. We want assessment to be something where students are getting that feedback, and Mote can really help with that. And here are some of the ways that Mote can help with familiarity. First off, create a community from day one. You want your students to feel comfortable in that classroom. And so from day one, make sure you're using something so students can introduce themselves. And so what I like to do is at the beginning of the year, I give students a quick Google feedback form where they can do a Mote, where they introduce themselves. They say their preferred names, their preferred pronouns, if they feel comfortable doing so. And I ask them, what's one thing you want your teacher to know? And that could be anything from, I want you to know I like to sit in the front, or maybe I don't feel super comfortable doing something, or maybe I need a lot of help with this. Or it could be just, I want you to know that I really like this subject, something like that. I don't know. Just something so that you give them that opportunity to say something if they want to. And then I usually do something fun, like, and then will you tell me what your theme song would be if you had to pick a theme song for when you walked in the room? Something kind of fun like that. And so by doing that, you're creating an immediate sense of community, and Mote can be so helpful for that. When I was using Google Classroom, I would just do it right in Google Classroom. Now that I'm not, I do it in a Google form. And so really doing something where students can share right away is something that's very powerful. And also having students pronounce their own names is something that has really, really helped me. And so I think that's something that's really helpful. I see the question there. How do you create a feeling community in the beginning of the school year? And, creating community through sharing could be so, so very helpful. Another one is to do a quick summary. So maybe just a wrap up of what we did in class, rather than doing a traditional exit ticket where you're writing or answering questions. Have students summarize in their own words, give the 90-second version of what we went over in class, and then give perhaps some opportunities for students to ask questions. That way, you're getting that quick feedback from students. You're finding out what they got from class, and also, and probably more importantly, what they may have missed, or what you wanted them to focus on that maybe they didn't focus on, or maybe they have questions about something, so you know what to review next time. So using Mote to have students give a quick summary at the end of class as kind of exit ticket can be really, really helpful, and it lets you know what the students know. That way you make sure when you're assessing them on things that are familiar to them. And if they're not familiar with something, you can take that time to give them the support and scaffold it so that they do know something. This can be really helpful too when students are reviewing for an assessment. You want to make sure that they understand why they're reviewing what they're reviewing. So let's say you give them a list of resources you want them to look through. You can do some Mote comments and explain points from the relevant websites they're looking for, or the relevant documents. What is it they're looking for in this website? So you don't just pull it up and say, okay, what am I looking for? What do I have to know from this? So giving them just a quick overview can be really, really helpful. Another thing that I did not put in here that is also helpful, that doesn't have to do that much with familiarity, but definitely helps with many of my students, is creating a Mote where you just go over the directions. You just read the directions. That explanation of directions, I find, really helps students to understand what's going on. And if I do that, especially in a practice assessment, so that students know right away, okay, this is something that, okay, so as we're going over this, we know these are the directions, and then they can go back and listen to them again. That can be really helpful. I like to keep the directions the same on the practice assessment that I have on the real assessment too, because that way students will have no questions about directions, or if they have any questions, they can do it with the practice assessment. That can be really, really helpful. I also do this for read alouds. So if there is a bit of text that we're doing, and I'm a Latin teacher, I will do a Mote where I will be speaking the Latin so that students can listen and read at the same time. I used to do this with passages too when I used to teach English. I think that can be really, really helpful to break it up into passages where students can listen. And with Mote, it's so nice because you can do the speaking yourself, or you can even have students read passages or take turns reading passages and recording their voice. However you want to do it, it's something that can be really helpful. Another thing that's really nice is that if you're creating Motes that you think will be helpful to students for their review of an assessment, you can save it to your Mote book, and then you can access it really easily and then share it again. So I think that's really, really helpful that you can share those Motes with students. And I'm going to bring up this point again and again, but my students are way more inclined in the last few years to watch or listen to something than they are to read something. So when I'm giving feedback, being able to give feedback that students can listen to, especially quick to the point feedback like Mote, is something that is very valuable and something that my students are more likely to do. And so when you're saving to Motebook, I would say it's really important to give it a name that's really helpful. Here we have Notebook is really easy, but also something where if you give a name to something, then you can find it easily. So maybe I would do something like, I'm doing this for Latin 1. I would say Latin 1, Unit 1. I would make it a very detailed Latin 1, Unit 1 explanation of blank. Make it something detailed, so make it something you can go back to. And then when you create a ton of things in Motebook, you can do them again next year. So you don't have to reinvent the wheel. So you're only recording all of those things once. Or if you're doing something a little differently, you can kind of tweak it. And that's really fun too. And so you can see, okay, I did this last year. Maybe I could do something different. I'll listen to that. Okay, maybe I want to modify that or refine that for the next year. Something to keep in mind. I also believe in the power of frequent assessment. Students should receive frequent formative assessments to assess understanding. That way, not only will they have an idea of where they are, you'll have an idea of where they are. Again, not all of this has to be something formal or graded, but just a way for students to get feedback in a frequent manner. One of the things I like to do is have students give a quick explanation of something on a Google form. So let's say we did some sort of concept in class and we talked about it. Then I have all students do kind of a quick explanation on Google form with Mote. So they can do a quick spoken explanation. And then I can go back and listen to those and see how they're doing. And I'll be able to give them that quick, relevant feedback. So that's something I think is really powerful. I think it's a time saver for so many different reasons, but it also allows students to let you know, okay, this is what I got from this. And that way you can do something that's more frequent, but at the same time, you can give them the relevant information. And I really like the accessibility of Mote because you can give emoji, spoken, or written feedback to what students are saying. And that's really helpful. I find that my students, they like emojis, they're fun, but just speaking and having them hear the tone of your voice and how you're saying something and giving that spoken feedback can be really helpful. But also doing something, you have a choice, which is really nice. And you can do things over and over. And like I said, I make my Notebook with lots of comments. So if I'm repeating comments, I can use that too. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. You don't have to record something new every time. Flexible. It's really important too, when it comes to assessment, that students have some choice in how they demonstrate their learning. And this is where Mote can come in. And so again, you can have students do emoji, spoken, or written feedback. Give students that choice of feedback. Teachers have choice of feedback and students have choice of feedback. So you can figure out what works best for that student, which is really nice. You can also give students a choice of how to be assessed. Maybe they're more comfortable writing. Maybe they're more comfortable speaking. Maybe they want to do a combination of both. Maybe they want to speak it and then go back and modify it which you can do. You can go in and get your transcript and modify it and create something written. And that's something I actually encourage a lot of my students to do who feel more comfortable speaking. I find that sometimes if they get their ideas out there by speaking and then create a transcript for themselves, they can then modify that to become a written assessment. And it's something that is very helpful because sometimes it just feels easier to speak than to write. And especially when you have writer's block, just getting your ideas out there can be very powerful. So choice of assessment gives students that power and agency. Another thing that's helpful is when you're doing, let's say you're doing a spoken assessment, students can listen to what they did and then decide to re-record. So it's kind of a built-in reassessment here. You can give students the opportunity to try again. And that's something that's really helpful. Another thing that I strongly encourage my students to do is if they're going to do a class presentation, I strongly encourage them to record themselves speaking it in advance and then get feedback on it. That way I can hear what they're going to say, especially when I'm doing something in the target language. I can help them. I can look at their transcript for their Latin and help them to modify it. I can help them figure out what's going on there. And I can also give them feedback. I can say, okay, slow down here, or maybe you want to bring out this point more. I also do a thing with my students each year where they do a persuasive speech. And I find that this is a wonderful way for students to practice their persuasive speech and to go through and make sure they're hitting all the points, but also they have to do their persuasive speech in under 90 seconds. So they have to make sure that they are getting under that 90-second mark with their speech. And so this helps them to time themselves. This helps them to see exactly what they're saying, to indicate where they have pauses or where they want to keep going, and really helps them to be more prepared for those presentations. And another thing is if you allow reassessment, which I do in my class, you can give students feedback using Mote. Again, I feel that students are going to be more likely, and I've actually proven this by surveying my students, students are much more likely to listen to feedback than they are to read written feedback. And so giving students feedback and then giving them that opportunity to listen to that feedback and then try again, whether that's a spoken feedback, whether that's students doing a speaking activity or a writing activity, giving them the feedback and allowing them to reassess is a great way to give them some ownership here. And I talked before about focused. Assessments should focus on 1 or 2 skills, max 3 at a time. And so I think it's really fun for students to be able to focus in on those skills and not feel like they have to do everything all at once. That way they'll get feedback on how they're doing on 1 or 2 things as opposed to all the things at once. And that's something that I think can be very powerful. You can also do a discussion-based assessment where students are speaking back and forth to each other. You can have students do a spoken Mote and then respond to somebody else's Mote. And that's a really fun option. They can they can listen to each other's and really listen with the intent of responding, which I think is something that's a really important life skill. So doing a discussion-based assessment can be really fun. A listening and speaking assessment, and I say both things intentionally, can also be really fun. So you would create some recordings, have students listen to that recording, and then have them do a spoken response to that. I would make a copy for each student. And maybe this could be one thing that they're listening to, but I could also do a series of things that students are listening to and then have them respond using Mote. That way you have that back and forth where they get the opportunity to listen. Another thing that's great is with a Mote, they can listen again. It's not just a kind of one and done situation, which is really helpful. So they listen. And again, the purpose of this is not just to assess their listening. I think also to make sure they listened with the point of speaking in return. And it doesn't necessarily even have to be a speaking assessment. You could do a listening assessment and then have students answer a series of questions based on that. Really just depends on what you want to do with your students. But I think it's really fun to do speaking and listening back and forth. Another thing as a language teacher I find helpful is having students summarize a passage. And I see here in the target language, but really, even if you're an English teacher or if you're a science teacher, having students summarize what's going on in a lab, have students summarize what's going on in an English passage. Maybe even if you're a math teacher, having students walk you through the steps, kind of walk and talk you through how they are approaching a problem, can be something that's really helpful. So you can see how they're doing and give them appropriate feedback on that. So summarizing not just a passage, but all these different things can be helpful for students. Another thing that's fun is describing a picture. So giving students a picture and then having them describe what's going on. That could be in the target language. It doesn't even have to be a picture. It could be describe this diagram, describe this map, describe what's going on here. Maybe it's a series of pictures, describe how one leads into the other. There's a lot of different things you can do where students can each get something that they have to describe. And that's something that will give you an opportunity to listen to what they're doing. And I don't know about you, but it's so nice to just be able to put in my earbuds and be able to listen to student responses as opposed to reading all of them at the end of a busy day too. And so that's something that can be really helpful. Above all, the reason why I like to use Mote is it allows my students to have easy, quick feedback. And I think that's probably the most powerful thing of all. Because the whole point of assessment, like I've been saying, is it's a feedback loop. It's a feedback loop between a teacher and a student. And so for me, I always see it as, okay, this is something where I'm getting student work and then I have to do my part in this and give them feedback. And so I also ask students to reflect on their assessments. I ask them 3 questions. I say, what did you find success with? What did you find challenging? And what do you want your teacher to know? Just like I said at the beginning. And after every assessment, getting those 3 questions answered really helps me to gauge, okay, where are students? How are they doing? And what can I do better as a teacher? Because it's my job to lead students through this education process, educator, to lead out in Latin. So I'm leading students through this process, and I want to be able to have an effective feedback loop so that I can get them where they need to go, and I get that feedback from them. And so one of the reasons I really like Mote is fast feedback. It takes me so much less time to just say the feedback rather than to type the feedback to each individual student. So as a teacher who's always looking for things to save time, Mote is an incredibly powerful tool for that. It's super easy to respond. The ease of use with Mote is amazing. Just clicking either on the extension in Chrome or using comments in different Google Docs or using forms is really, really helpful. It makes it very, very easy. It's also really easy to translate. So if I have students whose first language isn't English and I'm giving feedback in English, maybe they can translate to help them understand my feedback better. Because really the purpose of feedback is something that is comprehensible by the student and gives them action for moving forward. So if my students don't understand what that action is, that can be a problem. And so making it so that it's easy to translate is really, really helpful too. And I think that so often, if you type something, it can be really hard for students to kind of understand the tone. I know sometimes in the past, if I get an email, sometimes I'm not quite sure what someone's tone is or how they're feeling with it. And I think that when you hear someone's voice saying words, it makes a big difference because you can tell what kind of tone that is. And as teachers, we try to have a supportive tone. We try to help students like that. And I think that can be really reassuring to students when they're getting feedback on assessment, to hear the tone of voice and to hear that supportiveness. And again, like I've been saying before, students are more likely to listen than to read comments. I've had much greater success in having students understand comments and actually listen and understand comments after using Mote. And so I encourage you to try it and see how your students do with it, because I have found it to be extremely effective. And finally, save time. Reuse voice notes from Motebook. And so I do this when I am doing the same feedback over and over again for something. But also, if you're doing something like writing comments for students, you can do it with your voice in Mote and then transcribe it, and then you have a comment. So you can create a comment bank using voice notes as well. So that's something that can be really helpful. I hope you have gotten a lot of ideas from this session and you've been able to think through different ways you can use Mote. But I think really we can use this tool to help our students with assessment, and that's what's really cool about it.
Well, Maureen, I can't thank you enough. I was sitting backstage just smiling and nodding throughout, even though no one saw me, just going to myself, these are such great, pillars of kind of implementing the platform, some ideas that are just really easy to implement by teachers, anybody who's trying to form that deeper connection with students. We've got about 5 minutes until our next session. You did such an amazing job presenting that you kind of explained everything to the point where there's not many questions in the chat, but that's okay, because I actually do have one for you.
Awesome.
I feel like at this point in education, teachers are looking for tools that are meaningful to them and are going to really enhance their instruction. And I don't know how many of us are still willing to just really be like, okay, this is another tool. I got all these resources thrown my way. What do I do with it now? Can you kind of share with us how you really just started with Mote? What were your first uses that kind of got your feet wet, so to speak, with this platform and kind of allowed you to incorporate it into your class?
Sure. I would say that I started using Mote most heavily during the pandemic. And I think that was because I wasn't getting that face-to-face connection with students that I usually get. And so by using Mote, I was able to give students, they were able to hear my voice, saying comments to them and engaging with them. And I think that was something that was so powerful. And I didn't realize how powerful that'd be even post-pandemic when I was back in the classroom with students, giving them that voice feedback for assessment really helps them to connect with that feedback in a way that they don't with written feedback. And I didn't appreciate the power of that. So when I first started using Mote, it was basically just to give feedback to students on different work. And now I use it for all sorts of things, exit tickets, introductions, as I was saying, practice presentations. There's all sorts of ways you can use Mote. But I think that for me, it's one of the most powerful feedback tools out there. Now, I would encourage, as a technology person, I don't use a ton of technology tools anymore. I've tried to really limit it since the pandemic, but this is one of the ones that's sticking in my toolbox. It's one of my tried and true tools because I think that my students really connect to it, and it's something that's very powerful.
I fully agree with you, and can't thank you enough for being a part of these sessions here today, Maureen. We're going to have to try to figure out a combination between your Latin and my maybe math background a bit one of these days, but I'm really looking forward. Absolutely. I'm really looking forward to using Mote in some of the new ways that you introduced today. And just thank you so much. And please tune into some of the other sessions.
Thank you so much. Take care.
Maureen, bye for now. All right, everybody. So we're just literally about 2 minutes away from our next fantastic presenter. We'll be back soon with the fabulous Lois Alston. We'll see you all soon. All right. Hello, everybody. I'm now joined by my better half, Lois. So we're very excited to be here with you today. We're going to keep things rolling at MoteCon 2023. I've got Lois's daughter making faces at me right now. So it's a lot going on here, everybody. Welcome to MoteCon 2023. So I couldn't be more excited to be next to my better half, Lois. We're going to be coming at you today with some amazing ideas to implement in your class. But in the meantime, Lois, before we show your Canva landing page and really get into a little bit more, you want to talk to everybody about what we're going to be doing today?
Absolutely. So I'm so excited that everyone is here. I'm excited to be here with my partner, Alex, and we're going to be sharing all the different ways that we use Mote to app smash with other platforms that we have been using. And we also have some ideas as well as different templates that we will be sharing as a resource that we will be dropping into the chat.
So I'm actually, unfortunately, I'm pulling up the MoteCon collection right now that we both created. We're very excited to present this. And really, we're going to give you even more ideas. I was kind of coming at it from a creative perspective, but at this point, we're going to really delve into some amazing app smashes that you can do with Mote. So at this point, I'm going to add this to the stream. Let's see how I do here.
This is the fun part about being live.
This is live and hosting for the first time, everybody.
You're doing great.
All right, thank you. So we're here. We're going to be doing getting the Mote out of cross-curricular content. And again, we're just so excited to be able to collaborate. We have a welcome message for you. And we also have Lois's awesome landing page.
So to introduce myself, I'm Lois Alston. I am an educational technology coach in Long Branch, New Jersey for the Long Branch School District. I'm actually entering my 21st year in Long Branch and my 7th year in this role as a tech coach. Before that, I was a math teacher. And so in my role, I love using Mote to be able to share out different information throughout the school year to all the different teachers as well as the administrators in my school district. So if you need to learn any more throughout the school year, the ways that we are using Mote, you can follow me on Twitter X at L_Alston or just X now.
And I think that we've done enough of me at this point. You know who I am at this time. I'm excited to be here again. Now, again, that QR code in the top right corner, that's going to allow you to scan and get this collection for yourself if you like. Again, I'm Mr. Isaac's Math on X and Instagram. Would love to connect. And proud Mote ambassador leader. You're going to see a lot of me over the next hour or so, but really excited to share some of our app smashing ideas with you today.
So the first thing that we're going to start off with is Adobe. We love using Mote in Adobe. And one of the examples that we're going to show to you as we're starting off the school year, in Adobe, they have different templates for Meet the Teacher. We actually took one and revamped it and showed how we can add a QR Mote. And this would be a great way to either share out digitally or to print out and put it outside if you're a classroom teacher, put it outside your classroom door for people to scan and to listen to your Mote message. Or for myself, I have an office. I would put this outside my office just so that way people that are coming by can learn a little bit more about myself and also hear my message. So we are going to, or I'm going to show you how this works. So here, after I had created or recreated my Adobe template, we have down in the box, and again, we're going to be sharing all of this so that way you can use this. We have that spot for you to put your QR Mote. So how this works, you go right on up to your Mote icon. We're going to press play. And I'm just going to do a quick example and then show you how we can then put that right into it.
You want to do a Mote live right now?
Sure, why
I love
not?
it. Let's go. Here we go. So she's going to be recording from my account. No worries. Here we go.
Hi, everyone. My name is Lois Alston, and I'm an educational technology coach in Long Branch, New Jersey. I'm excited for the school year for 2023 to work with all of you and to basically help you out with how we can use Mote cross-curricular content.
I got to give you full credit on that. Off the cuff. Very nice.
And I'm not usually good off the cuff, but thanks.
Awesome job. So all you have to do now is click that share button, go to QR code, you save your image. Google Chrome kind of changed where the downloads pop into. But Lois, it's really just as simple as kind of dragging that QR mode in and resizing it, right?
Exactly. And that's why we have that square box right there for you. So that way you can get to the right size in order to fit into the template nicely.
And if you want to try to keep it on theme with your brand, with your school's brand, you could drop a duotone on that QR code and really keep it that way. But we feel like aesthetically wise, the Mote QR codes really do look nice regardless. So this is something that for me, I'm actually going to print this and put it on the outside of my office, not Lois's, mine, of course. But I just feel like what better way at back to school night to have this type of graphic. And there are so many other templates available where a parent, a guardian scans that and then they're able to learn more about you. So we really hope that you take advantage of
And
this
that's
idea.
what you did last year outside of your math classroom. I remember you created a QR Mote to introduce yourself to the parents as well as the students that were coming in for the first time.
Absolutely. And we have that sample for you. Oh no, we have that sample for you right here where you could scan. Lois created another Mote message as well. And then we kind of just shared an idea that I came up with last fall along with Lois. We kind of came up the idea of really keeping the SEL flowing, that gratitude flowing. So I created a gratitude graphic, and Lois was nice enough to remix it along with Tanya Gonzalez as well, where we inserted that QR audio mode into our gratitude graphics.
Yeah, so this was a great template that Alex created for Thanksgiving. As you can see, you saw mine. Here's Alex's that he created. Thank you for adding me on there. And then Tanya Gonzalez, she was very kind to also take part in this. And here's a picture of her and her beautiful family, and then her QR Mote as well to share about what she's thankful for Thanksgiving.
And I don't want to get ahead of myself and jump into Tanya's presentation and really get into what she's showing, because I think she's going to show her Meet the Teacher graphic that she designed with Adobe Express. She's using that QR Mote to almost really welcome her students and make them feel comfortable to start off the school year. So she's going to be presenting on some amazing things, I believe, tomorrow. And we just wanted to provide you these examples. And you know what? I actually forgot. Let's drop that template once Adobe squares that away into this collection so that people can use it. And now on the continued kind of SEL front, go ahead, Laura.
Absolutely. So we are in our district. We actually are very big into SEL. I know a lot of school districts across the country are, especially during COVID and post-COVID. In our district, we do have a health and wellness coach that deals with yoga and mindfulness. So we actually created this last year for her and to share out to all the different teachers and students. So we actually kind of revamped this a little bit for this session, where we had a weekly goal that teachers and students can put in Canva on this Mote mindfulness. So here on the right-hand side, you see that this is an example that we did where I have a picture and a quote that my goal for this week is to be my best self. And on the left side, I have 3 bullet points of what I'm grateful for. But then in that Mote player, we actually have, or I do, an explanation a little bit more about the 3 things that I'm grateful for. So that way it's a little bit of a quick, here, this is what I'm grateful for, but to learn a little bit more, that Mote player is just a great way to really just expand and to share out. And then this is all a template that we created. So that way teachers and students can use this and really just personalize it and make it their own.
Yeah, we want people to be able to kind of chronicle how they're doing this year, really addressing their social emotional learning needs. And what we're really trying to do in Long Branch this year is kind of just immerse students in these types of opportunities. So we're really going to promote Mote in this manner, trying to get students to develop that connection, even if it's where they're playing it for themselves and they don't feel as comfortable sharing their weekly or monthly affirmations. They're going to get that opportunity to share their voice and really get that intonation as far as why this is their focus for that week. So or month. So what we did for you is we provided you with the Canva template right here. It's available. You click on this, it's going to allow you to make a copy. And once again, we really hope that you take advantage of this idea in your own school, your own class, where we're going to try to, really develop those connections with our students and give them the opportunity to share how they're feeling.
And especially, if they were to do this weekly, this is a great way to start off the week after coming from the weekend. And it also gives students that perspective, that mindset, okay, this is my goal for the week. And it's a great way for them to revisit just to keep that fresh and keep mindful of it. So that way, hopefully it has more positive outcomes for success and for their learning during the week.
Definitely. And, we really feel passionate about these 2 design platforms that we introduced, both Adobe and Canva. Adobe has some audio options, as does Canva, but that ability to make a QR Mote that can be translated by our parents, our guardians, anybody who's multilingual, we really do feel passionate about that, especially in the district that we're in, and we're sure many of you are in as well. Now, I have to say, we were recently lucky enough to be able to go to ISTE, and I was able to present at the Ed Puzzle booth with regard to how to app smash with Mote. And I want to say that kind of seeing how I incorporated Mote, there is now an audio player included on Ed Puzzle's platform for providing feedback. So I'm not taking any credit. I think that we all kind of build ideas off of each other. And even with Ed Puzzle incorporating that audio player option, we still feel like Mote, with that ability to translate, is very appropriate and very timely and helping our students get more accessible materials. So basically what I have is, this is just text that shows you, this is an Edpuzzle lesson that I created. And what happens with the incorporating or integration of Mote is, if I go to Edpuzzle very quickly and I show you a multiple choice question that I'm editing, you're going to get that option to cycle between feedback and your questions answer options. So what I did is I said, okay, I want my multilingual learners to be able to get the most out of the feedback that I'm providing them, in addition to words, where when they get the question correct, incorrect, whatever, they simply have to click on that hyperlink and they will be brought to that Mote message that I have. So what I did here for you is I kind of showed you how it would look to the person taking or completing the interactive video lesson. So I believe it's this one right here. Excuse me. I think it's this one. Okay. So this is an example where if you were using Edpuzzle with your students, here would be the question that they're answering. I got to stop with the hands. It's kind of like attacking people out there. And I don't know what the answer is on this one. So I'm going to say it's this one. But let's say that I maybe got that wrong. You could then click on this Mote audio explanation. And I'm trying to make kids not be so, I don't want anybody to feel defensive or let down. So I added just a little emoji. I said close, but not quite. And then I'm providing them that math explanation as to what I feel were the common errors. So you can kind of build a lesson off of, well, what are the most common errors my students are going to make? And then giving them that voice explanation that can be translated right there, depending on what answer that they give.
And that's a great way, because you can't get to every student when you need to. So this gives them that opportunity to really learn and correct what they need to do, because it's on right there at the moment.
Absolutely. And what I did, considering it's not that involved of a process, anybody who uses Edpuzzle is new to Mote even, I did create a Loom video here for you to watch me actually embedding a Mote audio link into that feedback. But you could also do it for answers for our multilingual learners or students with special needs who might need that audio in addition to simply the text. So really passionate about both Mote and Edpuzzle. And despite that new audio player, I still think Mote offers a lot, especially to our multilingual learners and people who might need that extra level of accessibility.
Absolutely. All right, so now we are on ways that we can incorporate Mote with Google. There's so many different ways that you can use Mote with Google because they go together. But one of the ways that Alex and I have been working on is, especially we're starting off the school year together as tech coaches in the same district and as partners. So we want to really highlight teachers throughout this school year that are tech-tastic teachers, the way that they're using technology in the classroom. So we thought it'd be a great way to, when we find those teachers and we see what they're doing in the class, to really basically celebrate them. So we have this Google form that we created. And in that form, we have obviously the teacher's name. We have what it is that they are doing in the class. Can you just scroll on down?
Sure.
Awesome. And then what school they come from, but then what qualities that they have displayed. So we have like a checklist right here. That way, this is something that we felt, hey, these are the different ways that they're probably going to be showcasing the qualities, and let's click on that. And then because we have so many different swag surprises, depending on what they're using, what platform, we will be giving out a swag to that teacher or teachers throughout the month. But the best part about it is to make it personal, having Mote messages in this Google form. So when they receive this, they will be able to hear and really get a more of an in-depth explanation. And that way we can really celebrate them by giving a Mote message of what they're doing. So I'm excited about this because we haven't done it yet, but we're going to be doing this throughout the school year.
Yeah, we had created a positive behavioral support system type of Google form. Lois was really great with kind of making it where, you know, you enter the email of the recipient that you want. And for me, I was using it with my class. My previous school actually adopted this method as a Rocket reward form, and I really loved it. But now in a new role as a tech coach, I'm trying to form connections with people on the fly as a new member of the school community. And I feel like Mote, this form is going to allow Lois and I to really make those connections with more teachers, more students. And basically, this is the preview mode. This is what you would be filling out if you choose to make a copy of this template, make it your own. And again, maybe a little bit later on, if we have a little extra time, we can also share the Google Forms template that's for students and a positive behavioral system.
Absolutely. And in this template that you can receive, you can see here, it says click here to listen to a Mote message that will explain more about this form.
So if you choose to make this your own, we're giving you instructions. If you weren't able to see us live, and you just simply click on the collection. And again, that's another great use of Mote, just simply hyperlinking a message, making the material more accessible, especially for teachers who could sometimes use that extra level of support. Now, in addition to that, one that I kind of created with regard to the Google workspace of apps is a Google Slides flipbook template. And I don't think that I've ever really presented this one, but it's one that I really feel will kind of enhance, especially your vocabulary, kind of introducing new terms to students. Anybody who knows who I am at this point understands that I was using Google Slides as my main resource platform to then share with my students. There were purple sound icons absolutely everywhere. I was always trying to share with my students my voice, that connection, so that they were able to best succeed. And what I basically did here is I gave you an example of how I'm using it. But before we get to that, I gave those Mote audio instructions. This is a template that I released to my colleagues at my previous school. I plan on doing it at my new school. And, just throwing this template at them without a video or that ability to kind of describe how to use it appropriately. That's why I love where Mote, regardless of whether they have the extension, they're able to hear my voice and intonation. So basically, when you're in present mode, you click on these different tabs and it brings you to all of these different spots. And you could really set this up as a Meet the Teacher as well. We go back to that Adobe template that Lois remixed, and it looks amazing. But you could make this your beginning of year slideshow, kind of talking about expectations or what you're going to be learning. And you always have that home button in the bottom right corner to get you back here. So I'll briefly show you kind of how I was using it in my class, where I created this example for, don't get too bored on me here. I know that Mel's kind of out in the chat. She's a fellow math teacher out there. For congruent figures, trying to kind of differentiate between what does congruence mean as compared to what is similar figures. You have it where each of my terms have Mote audio messages. Now, I'm giving you kind of a deep cut right here, because when you have that Mote icon, you are able to replace that image with whatever you want. Now, I could have kept it the purple, regular sound icon, but for the purposes of this, I wanted to kind of stay on a color theme to kind of not bring in too many different shades or anything like that. And now my students have those audio explanations where you could see the player is the same. The only thing that changed is that icon. So what I would impress upon many of you is, how could you use that replace image feature in order to really make instructions accessible? I looked at a tweet from someone, I don't remember, or a post from someone, sorry, who said that feeling when a student asks you what they're supposed to be doing immediately after you give them instructions. And I can feel that. I like to think I'm so loud, so quick talking, so Jersey that students could never have a problem following my directions. They will. It was a challenge at times. But I know that when I started embedding Mote audio messages in, it really helped elevate my materials. And you could see I incorporated examples. I made it where we were kind of working through this as a group and also independently. And it just really kind of worked out well. So, if nothing else, take this digital flip book, make it your own. So many different uses for this. But my main question is, how could you incorporate Mote into this where you could both inform students and get them engaged to be joining your class this year? So really great opportunity to use Google Slides as well. But as many of us know, maybe some of us don't, you can record from any website on the web and then kind of do a sticky Mote where it's making that material more accessible.
And that's also just a great resource to have for students to have.
Definitely. So if we haven't given you the idea that we're riding the Wakelet wave in addition to the Mote boat, we have a couple of examples of where students participated in projects involving Mote.
Oh, I love this one. So this one here, I absolutely love. So I work with a lot of the elementary classes in our school district. So one of the schools, Amerigo Anastasia, this is with Mrs. Barrett's 5th grade class. And so our school district is a sustainable district, and every school is a sustainable school. So each year they're showing how they are projecting their sustainability. So in Mrs. Barrett's 5th grade class, they created these wind-powered vehicles from scratch. And so the students were basically told, you can use any tools that you want to use. And so they created on their own such amazing different vehicles. And then they tested them out in the classroom where there was like a starting point and it kind of looked like a road in the middle of the class to see how far each one would go. But to make this even better, we created, Mrs. Barrett and I, this Wakelet collection, and students were able to share using Mote how they created their wind power vehicle. And then they also gave it a name. So every vehicle had its own name, and they explained why they chose the materials that they use in order to create it. And even some students that some of them were like a flop, they even explained, okay, it didn't work because they realized, wait, maybe if I had done this and it had larger wheels, maybe that would work. So each person, each student has a Mote message that they created. And so this was actually displayed at the sustainability fair in our school district towards the end of the school year. So this was a great way. It was a community building fair that everyone came to. And so this was ways for people outside the district that were coming in from the community, or even people throughout the district that are not in that school building. They were able to see and hear what the students had created without physically having those mobile devices there.
So
that
we
makes sense, right? Mobile devices or
mobile
power,
device. They're moving. That works for me. In addition to that, this is a Wakelet collection that I'm highlighting one of my students from last year, Elizabeth. This was a getting to Mote you basically activity where I incorporated Canva and Mote and Wakelet. You could see the types of headings that I gave my students trying to better get to know them. And I can just say that Elizabeth, who was one of my finest students last year, who I miss very much, having to leave the district prematurely, she just went above and beyond, adding in the unsplash photos, adding in her Mote messages. And I would encourage anybody, really take a listen to what this girl was sharing, how she was, really about her family and dying to go to Paris one day and enjoying steaks, as you can see with that very, very nice plate of steak frites right there. So I can't thank Elizabeth along with many of my other students. I had so many of them, but this was the one that really was meaningful to me. I always remember it. And it was just something that made my heart sing, because this was a student of mine. All of my students were not familiar with Mote, yet they were able to embed these messages into their own Wakelet collection and really make it shine. So I really just can't impress this upon everyone enough. This is a tool that your students can use. They can use it in conjunction with other apps if they're familiar with those. And it really just offers some great options for your students to share their voice in a way that's comfortable for them. So our call to action, Lois, I'll briefly introduce it and then you can lead us out.
Sounds good.
So we're trying to keep the good vibes going here at MoteCon 2023. So we can appreciate that many of you might have just installed the extension, are new to it, but even our vets, we want to challenge you today to record a message of gratitude. Take that Mote and then send it to somebody else. We want to make Mote worldwide, but anybody who's watching, even if you're watching the replay, think about the impact that you can have on somebody just simply sending them a Mote, hearing your voice and going, hey, was just thinking about you. I hope you're doing well. That would mean so much more than that text message that we've become so commonly using and kind of losing that level of personal touch with each other. So I feel like this is a very easy challenge to complete. And we also feel one that could get that kindness ripple going that we all talk about on our different social platforms. So we really hope that you take the time to participate in this challenge.
Take a Mote train.
Yes, we're going to get the Mote train going, as Lois just said. That's not original. That was been said for a long time.
I'm using it. I'm bringing it back.
Lois, we kind of provided similar resources to what I shared earlier today, but anything else that you want to talk about here?
So I just want to share in here, as I said, we have this resource available for everybody. If you are new to Mote, we have everything to get you started signing up, as well as going to the learning zone and different ways that you can use Mote in the classroom. We have Alex's collection right here from his presentation that he did an awesome job this morning. And then we also have our MoteCon resource hub from last year from the MoteCon. And so we wanted to bring that back because we also have some ideas in there and some templates that you can use to use Mote.
We really put those there because we're passionate about what we shared last year as well. So definitely delve in, take at least one thing away from us, and we really hope that you enjoy giving these different platforms a shot together, because Mote does really work seamlessly on any website, any app. So we really hope that you consider giving this a try this school year. Lois, anything else that you want to add before we go to our next fabulous group of presenters?
I guess for the app smashing, we usually, depending on what the app is, we figure out, okay, is a QR Mote or a Mote player the best avenue to go? So that's always something that we keep in mind, which one. So if we have it where we want someone to click on it right away to listen to our message, then we have that Mote player. If we know that it's easier to use the phone to just use that QR Mote, especially if you're having it displayed outside your classroom, then we use the QR Mote. So that's something we do keep in mind when we are creating and what app, which is the best way to use Mote in that template or the project that we're working on.
Well, look, I can't thank you enough for being a part of this session with me. I don't think that there's anyone else in the world I would rather collaborate with, make Waco collections with, and then present with than Lois. So can't thank you enough. Courtney, really appreciate it. Everybody in the chat, really appreciate the great feedback and people attending today. So we're only about 4 minutes away from our next session. You're not going to want to miss this one. We have Stephanie Howell and Greta Sandler coming up next, talking about some amazing things that you're going to be able to take and put into practice in your own class. So bye for now. We're going to be back in about 4 minutes. And I'm so excited to really get into the next session at MoteCon 2023.
And we'll make sure that we put that link into our weekly collection for all of you.
Yes, we will definitely share the link right now. As soon as we go backstage briefly, we will share our collection link with everyone so that you can really explore. All right, so we'll be back in about 3 minutes, 4 minutes. Grab some water, grab a cup of tea, and get ready for some more Motiness at MoteCon 2023.
Thank you all for being a part of this today, and we look forward to the other sessions coming up.
We'll be right back, everybody. See you soon.
Are we on mute?
All right, welcome back, everybody. Be sure to visit mote.com/MoteCon to stay up to date on all things MoteCon 2023 and join the Moteist community out there. I am so excited to introduce the duo who will present in this next session. They really do not need an introduction, but I have one for both of them. So first and foremost, we have Greta Sandler, who is a learning innovation leader at Belgrano Day School in Buenos Aires, Argentina. She is passionate about creating safe learning environments and empowering learners by giving them a voice and choice in their education, nurturing their creativity, and prioritizing their social emotional needs. Greta is an ISTE certified educator and a Google certified trainer who advocates for agile, student-centered classrooms and project-based learning. She aligns projects with the UN's SDGs, empowering students to become agents of social change. As an ISTE community leader, Greta enjoys working alongside educators worldwide, exchanging ideas and empowering teachers everywhere to elevate their practice. So before I introduce Stephanie, let's bring Greta out here. Greta, pleasure to meet you, kind of in person. Very excited to have you here today. How are you?
Hi, thank you for having me. Well, it's a bit chilly here in Buenos Aires. I see most of you are in your summer break or finishing, or some have been back to school this week, but we are in the middle of the school year and just finished our winter break.
Well, very excited to have you here, and also very excited to introduce your partner in crime today, who really needs no introduction as well, but I'm still going to introduce her. So Stephanie Howell has been in education since 2014 and has spoken at conferences around the globe. Her most recent achievements include being named a member of ISTE's Distinguished District Team, earning a WOSU Leadership and PLSD's Innovative Leader Awards, plus Google Innovator designation. Stephanie is one of the founding members of Global GEG and Gold EDU, which I'm a member of, and she holds a master's degree in curriculum and instruction and educational leadership. Let's bring her out here. Stephanie, what an intro. How are you doing today? So excited to see you.
I am doing really well. I'm kind of jealous though, because you and Lois were sitting right next to each other, and I'm like, why can't I sit next to Greta?
Yeah, I miss you.
But that was adorable. I wish I could be in the same room.
Yeah.
Well, I have full faith that despite the hundreds of miles in between you two in different countries, that this is going to be a session that no one would want to miss. So I'm really excited to delve into what you're going to share today. I'm going to go backstage, but I will pop back in at the end. So wishing you both a great session, and bye for now.
All right. Thank you. All right. So today we're going to be kind of exploring and talking about how to empower and engage feedback for positive change. So when we're thinking about how do we incorporate feedback within our instruction, there can be a couple different ways that you can do this. And when we're first looking at this, we just want to think about three things. Well, how do these comments maybe make you feel? And when you're thinking about them, just kind of use an emoji and place it in the chat. But maybe the first comment, your work needs improvement. It's just not good enough. So how does that maybe make you feel? So again, use the chat, pick an emoji, and throw that right in there.
How would you feel, Steph, if you got that comment?
Well, I got something really similar when I was at ISTE. So when I was at ISTE, I got a similar comment about, your work needs improvement. And yeah, she's shaking her head. And this person was just like talking to somebody pretty high at ISTE. And she told me that I have no potential. And so getting that type of comment, you're just like, what?
It was early in the morning, and I meant that you had no ceiling, that you have lots of potential, but sometimes my neurons, don't fire and wire properly.
Yeah. So now it's a joke. Did not mean that, but it was just funny. But yeah, well, sometimes when you just get comments or feedback like that, you're just like, well, what's not good enough? What needs improvement?
Yeah. What can I do with that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And how about if you received this other comment? Your essay demonstrates a strong understanding of the topic and your arguments are well supported with evidence. However, I recommend revisiting your conclusion to provide a more concise summary of your main points. Let's see what the chat has to say. How would you feel?
How would you feel about that one?
I see lots of thinking faces.
Yeah, I like that one. Oh, look at the Mel's little nerd face one.
That's an intense comment. Well,
Yeah. How does that make you feel, Greta?
I think it's intense, like Mel says, but I think it gives me the tools of what to do next. And sometimes, like your work needs improvement, like the first comment, and it's like, okay, what do I need to do to improve it, right? So I think it gives you, some kind of tool to make it better next time.
Yeah.
What do you think, Steph?
I think so too. It provides kind of, okay, what is not good enough, right? It doesn't just say it's not good enough. It tells you kind of what it is and what maybe that person recommends. Also, it uses statements like I rather than everybody thinks you should revisit your conclusion. And then the final one is just great work. So again, in the chat, how does that one maybe make you feel when you hear great work? Bark about it. Cora.
Yeah.
Well, welcome, Frederick.
Oh, hi, Rick.
How does great work make you feel when you hear that, Greta?
It's kind of misleading because at first you see great and it's like, oh, good, but now what?
Yeah.
Right?
Yep. I agree too. It's kind of like, okay, well, what else do I need to focus in on or whatever?
Yes. Or what made it great?
Yeah.
And is there any other thing I could do to make it even better or different, next time?
Yeah. Yeah. So this research comes from John Hattie, and where it comes from is it shows a 0.73 effect size. And what we know about that is when feedback is implemented with strong, in a strong way, rather than just maybe saying good job or your work needs improvement. But when we're using language like number 2, we actually will see a higher effect size within our students. So what this means is, if you're not familiar with John Hattie, the 0.4 is showing just 1 year's growth. So this 0.73 is pretty high when it comes to seeing students work. But what John Hattie also kind of says, again, is it's how you implement it. You can just give feedback to students and it might not be implemented well. So that is not going to show a 0.73. And so when it comes to feedback, our best practices is we want to make sure we're not just judging students' works or colleagues' works. We also want to maybe use criteria to help us find their strengths and gaps. So you might want to have a rubric or some type of outline that allows you to know, what am I looking for when it comes to this student and how they perform to the activity or the standards or whatever you're maybe measuring or giving them feedback on. You also want to provide them suggestions for next steps, so that way they know what they can improve on for the next time. And then you want to make sure that you're keeping it very timely and just giving them that feedback as quickly as you can. You don't want to wait a week to grade an essay. You kind of want to do it throughout the process of them working on that essay.
Okay. So now, whenever we get feedback, we need to think about these 3 questions. They should be answered in our feedback or feed forward, like we like to call it. So we need to know where we want our student to go, and we need to let our student know where they are headed to, where they are now, and what are their next action steps. Feedback should give them the tools so that they can improve. It's part of the learning process. It shouldn't come at the end. So feedback should be part of, what they do throughout the whole thing, so that at the end they know, they know what to expect, and we know what's happening.
Yeah, these 3 questions can just kind of help us guide students through that feedback stage. And so when we're looking at feed forward, there's 4 different things that we kind of want to follow. And this is our process. So when we're thinking about giving feedback to students, this is kind of the way that we follow and provide that feedback that is showing that 0.73 that John Hattie suggests. So the first one is based on clear success criteria. So we want it to be very clear. We want it to be very focused. And a lot of times we'll use that rubric. We want to build trust with our students. And then we want to use language that is constructive and descriptive. And then finally, give insight into the student's learning. So we're going to dive into each of these, and then we're going to kind of explain how we kind of use Mote to kind of help us along the way. And so the first one is based on clear success criteria. And so when we're looking at clear success criteria, we have here a rubric. So I did this with a 6th grade teacher, and it was focused on the book Touching Spirit Bear. We had a wonder wall. And with this wonder wall, it allowed us to kind of focus on those 3 questions. What are we learning? Why are we learning it? And when will we know that we've learned it? Okay, so again, this is from John Hattie, and it's just providing that clarity to students. What we then did is we had this rubric down here. So what are we looking for? Students know exactly what to include in each parts of these, their assignment and their work. So again, we had each of the different parts broken down in a rubric. And so when we were giving feedback, we could use rubric language to really ensure that students were reaching a 4 compared to maybe a 1. Students also had this up front. It wasn't hidden. It wasn't given to them at the very end. It was given to them right at the beginning. So that way they knew what to look for and what to include in their project. After we did this, we then had students use tag feedback. When you're giving feedback, you want to have a protocol in place. And so you can see here, this was the game plan. The students learned how to give feedback. So what I did is I took the rubric and I just explained, what does it look like if you're telling them that you really like the title and the author? So here is an example. I really like how you use the title and the author in the book of your video. But if you were to ask that as a question, it might be worded like this. Why did you pick that font for the title and author of the book? And then the last one is give a suggestion. Capitalize Ben Michelson's first and last initial at the 37-second mark. Okay. So again, it was very, very step-by-step on each of these different parts to provide that feedback to students. And again, we let them see a model of what it might look like. We also explain that when you leave like 37-second marks, that makes the student, that makes people feel seen because you're using examples from their work. They know exactly where that happened in their video or when they did that in their paper. So whenever you can use student examples and provide it within the language, it can help as well. So once they did, we reviewed how to give feedback. We then did rounds. So it took 3.5 minutes, which sounds really crazy. I had a timer, so it did really take that long. They watched the video because, again, these were book trailers. After the video, they then gave feedback for 2 minutes, and then they switched and did it again. So they watched a new video, feedback for 2 minutes, switched again, video, feedback, switch. After that, here's where they left their feedback. So they rated it. They left a tell and ask in a suggestion, and they initialed it. Then they went to the next line for the next video. Then what they did at the very end is we just reflected. How can I improve next time? What things did you like from the videos that they watched? So that was kind of the process. And again, taking it, the success criteria, and then using a protocol such as tag to really help students give better feedback when they're using peer feedback, but not only for students, but also for adults.
So building trust. When we are giving feedback, yes, we need to embrace like this culture where, or this environment where our students feel safe, so that they really take in the feedback, but they are also, they feel safe to learn. But in order to help them feel safe, we need to build trust. We need to get to know them, to connect with them. So a really cool example to start building trust and getting to know them are check-ins. Well, Mel is here in the chat. She has some amazing templates you can use, but I decided to do something different. I asked my students to draw using auto-draw how they were feeling that day. And then they could share, they could record their Mote, giving me a little bit more information on how they were feeling and why they were feeling. And that drawing you see over there, well, not now, there, like the little heart. At first, when I saw the drawing, it was A plus B. I didn't know what my student meant. And this drawing was made by the student I've been trying to reach like since the very beginning of the year. And maybe the whole thing that the check-in was different, the auto-draw experience, being able to record his feelings, well, he shared a story that A is his dad, B is him. And that day, his dad was picking him up from school, and turns out his dad has moved to another province, and he hasn't been seeing his dad as much as he used to. So it was powerful because it gave me a lot of information about him, which I didn't know, and I've been trying for ages to get. So give them the chance to share their feelings. And at the same time, you are starting to build trust and this environment where they feel safe to learn and where they begin to take in feedback and accept it. And it's not like, oh, I messed up, I made a mistake. No, mistakes are part of growing, are part of learning. So this is super important.
And then finally next is using language that's constructive and descriptive. So here's an example, and we want you to just kind of practice in the chat. So you see this example from a student. How would you give them feedback?
Let's see what they say.
I know, I'm excited to see.
Yeah, I love this example. Students are so clever sometimes.
They are very clever.
Let's see. What would you say, Steph?
Oh, I don't even know. I'm like, probably start off complimenting the student, right?
You're so clever.
In a longer session, we've talked about how I'd probably just bark. Thanks, Cora. So in a longer session, we've talked about how we went over personality tests, and Stephanie Rossi does a really great job of sharing personality tests and how to use them in your classroom. And so we were like, this student's probably a green, or we think orange, I believe. And so we were talking about that as well. But here are just some stems to kind of help you. So if you click on these images, these are kind of kudos. So you can kind of take one thing from each of the different columns and then create your feedback. So we might say, like, I like how you, thought cleverly about the control plus C, control plus V. But however, you need to actually copy the reindeer, right? So just kind of thinking that through. And then again, this can just kind of help you. It helped me a lot when I was just learning about how to give better feedback, not only to students, but for staff. And so what I would do is I would take this little Post-it note and I would write down feedback to the staff or to the people. And then I would just leave a Post-it note. So then I would give them this little Post-it note just to kind of show them that, hey, I noticed what they were doing. And I could just kind of give different kudos or appreciation to those staff. But you could probably also use this to help you improve on feedback too. Like maybe this student needs to try again, right? And instead of just copying the reindeer, they need to actually copy it. Pixar, oh, go ahead.
No, that Rick is saying here, clever, but please try again by copying each square of the grid.
Yes. So here's another example from Pixar. Pixar, they have to learn how to give feedback and take feedback. So when it comes to Pixar, they say start with the positives. So again, providing examples of what you really liked, doing that feedback sandwich. So a good thing, maybe a negative thing, and then a good thing again. Listening to feedback when we feel the person is on our side, right? Like we like to listen to people that kind of agree with us, that might provide that safe space for us, that have that relationship already built. And then we want to make it personal. So again, using those like I statements rather than nobody will understand or I don't understand, right? That kind of makes you feel a little bit better when it's just one person, not everybody. And then just providing more detail. So that's where you can put in those timestamps. That's where you can incorporate different things to really help your students know exactly how to make it funnier or how to engage the audience or whatever the learning goals are based on your kind of overview. And then making suggestions. So giving them maybe a suggestion, but not telling them the solution. Maybe asking questions to help them get to that solution to make it better. So again, these are available to you. You'll just click on these little images to access those links. And then finally, giving insight into a student's learning. So now we're going to kind of just explore Mote a little bit. And there's two different ways that we can use or make it fun. And I'm so glad this person's here. So Greta, go ahead and give her a shout out.
So I love these soundboards. You have 3 here we will be sharing. They were created by Candy Tech Ideas, and you have lots of effects. We know we have the expert sound effect person here in the chat, so you should be here, Rick. But these are great when you're recording your feedback, to make it more engaging, more friendly. It also helps, build this environment we were talking about. Not just, you can even personalize and share your teaching style or how close you are to students with this. You have, the Mario edition. I love that one. And then, do you want to do the...
Yeah, and then one of our friends, Christine Morgan, if you're not following her or Frederick on social media, you should. She has school-friendly playlists. So some thoughts when you're maybe using Mote is to make it fun. And I love Greta when she was first telling me about using music with Mote. She talked about Rick. And during her ISTE certification, she would blast an air horn. Okay, why can't we do that with feedback, right? And I really wish Rick was in this scene to kind of bounce off that air horn like he does during most of my other sessions at ISTE, but he's not. Well, maybe. And so again, use music. Try to think, how can you make this fun with your voice and with soundboards and music as well? So now we're going to really quickly just walk through one example. There's a couple different templates. He's doing it at home. Thank you. There's a couple different templates of how you can use feedback with your students, and feel free to use these, edit these, but we're just going to walk through an example of using Mote now that we've kind of talked about how to give good feedback. So here is an example, and I can go to my Mote. So again, if you already have it downloaded on your extensions, it will be able to be accessed. I click it, and then all I have to do is click that purple. And there's sentence starters for students. So I really like how you added, and then you can tell the students exactly what you like them that they add. And then I just click the check mark. And students are able to hear my voice once I hit insert. And another thing that I really like to do is I'm able to add all of these different voices and hear from every single different student and what they maybe have to share about certain feedback, and then giving time for students to go and listen to those feedbacks and then make decisions on how they plan to move forward with their work. So allowing them to reflect on that too. So again, use soundboards, use music, use any of these sentence starters, have a procedure in place to really help your students. And there's all these different templates here in order to support you along the way.
Yes, and we need to remember it's their learning. Feedback should be their tool, and they should be able to use it. So all these amazing tools will just make the process better. We have time for one more, or no? Yeah.
Well, I don't know if there's any questions. So let's.
No, I don't see any questions.
If you have questions, please throw them in the chat. And yeah, we can just kind of really quick explain them if there are no questions. But again, if there are questions, please add them in the chat. This one right here is from Catlin Tucker. And so what students can do is, again, they can use Mote, and they will, again, just go up to their extension. It's filled in right into Google Slides. They talk about the purpose, and students can either tell you or they could just highlight this section. But sometimes it's better for students to explain what they needed to revisit or revise, or maybe they needed focus feedback and what that focus feedback is on, or maybe they need one-on-one coaching, or maybe they need troubleshooting a problem or an issue. So again, once they have that, they'll click the Mote, they will record their voice once they sign in. And it usually doesn't take this long.
No, it's pretty fast.
It is pretty fast. There we go. Okay.
There.
So then the students can explain what they want to revisit and revise with you. Then they'll check the box, and then they can come right onto their template, hit insert, and then their little icon with their voice will pop up on the slides. There we go. and then they can move it right here. And then if I wanted to, as the teacher, to respond back to them, I could go in and use Mote, provide my voice notes, la, 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 la. And then after that, what I like to do here is I like to, I love the purple Mote, but sometimes,
But yeah, too many people.
yeah, if you're working with other people, sometimes it's better if you can go in and change the color. So right now it's purple. I might come in and I go to format options. Once I'm in format options, I might go to recolor, and I might say, okay, I'm this green color, the student's the purple. And so then we just quickly know who's who, and it just kind of can help when we're creating different activities to kind of just help with communicating back and forth. And then we do a post conference. So what's the student's actions? What's the teacher actions? Again, I could type it, or I could just use Mote. Another thing that I could do is a follow-up. So with the follow-up, I'm able to explain, okay, I need to email this parent, or I need to do this, and I can put these little voice notes over there as well. You want to talk about the glows and grows?
Okay. I love the glows and grows. It's a different way of talking about strengths and weaknesses. So my glows are what I'm really proud of, what I feel I've done well, and the grows are what I need to improve on, what I want to work on. So again, we can ask our students to reflect on their own process by using glows and grows, but they can also do peer feedback. So you can use Mote. So each student can reflect on their own learning using one color, and then maybe their classmate, yes, can give them feedback. And then we teachers can also provide feedback to them using the glows and grows format. I think it's a friendlier way of sharing, you know, but sometimes we don't want to hear.
Yeah, for sure. And then this final template is where students think about what they want to get feedback on. So they will write down what they want feedback on, or they will voice using Mote what they want feedback on. Once they do that, then the student will have some peer or another teacher or somebody give them feedback. So what do they see that they did well? What still needs to be worked on? And so again, using Mote, you can just do this and put the little Mote icon right here. And actually you can have, again, multiple different Motes for different students providing different feedback on a piece of work or an example of what the student did.
And what I love about that one is that it gives them a voice on what they want feedback on, right? Mm-hmm. Sometimes we just assume we are giving feedback on something, but we don't, knowing what they particularly need is more powerful. I think it's giving them extra voice.
Yeah.
Well, sorry, Stephanie, go ahead. I couldn't hold back anymore. I loved all of the ideas being shared. We dropped your slides presentation in the chat. I'm sure you're also going to be forwarding this out to your different groups that you're involved in, but go ahead. Why don't you lead us out, Stephanie?
Yeah, so thanks for joining us. If you guys do have questions, I didn't see any in the chat, but feel free to send us a Mote if you want to send us a question. We love connecting with educators, so please, please, please reach out if you have any questions. You can find us on any of the social medias. There's so many of them that I don't even want to list them all. Or you can just send us an email as well. But we look forward to connecting with you and learning alongside you.
Yes, so just reach out to us and we are here. Thank you.
Thank you both so much. It was an absolutely amazing session. Everyone in the chat was just appreciating you and the ideas that you shared today. And I'm just looking forward to using Mote in some of the ways that you shared, because I think that feedback is really important to our kids, especially today. Mm-hmm. And you did such a great job showing what dead text on a screen is as compared to hearing someone's voice and making it so much more meaningful. So we are up against it in our next session. I'd love to sit here and chat with you both all day. But I thank you both so much for joining us today, and really hope you'll be able to tune into some of the additional sessions at MoteCon 23.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you both so much. All right, so we have officially reached our final session for the first block of MoteCon 2023. Feel free to take a quick, maybe 1 or 2 minute break, and be sure to join myself and Will Jackson, where we'll discuss Conquer and how this platform can help you this school year. So bye for now, and we'll see you all very soon. All right, welcome back, everyone. We've reached the final session of the first block of MoteCon 2023, and we're going to shift gears a bit. I'm going to bring the CEO and co-founder of Mote back up on screen, Will Jackson, to discuss the platform's new AI-powered little sister, Conquer. Will, good to have you back. I'm very excited to learn more from you about how Conquer can be used by teachers in the new school year.
Thanks, Alex. How are you feeling? It's been a pretty full-on and action-packed 2 or 3 hours since we last spoke.
I've got to tell you, I have a newfound appreciation for anybody who hosts in a conference on StreamYard and otherwise, because it is fast and furious. There's a lot of moving pieces. I've messed up on a couple of instances, but I'm still thrilled with how this conference is going, with how amazing the presenters have been thus far. So I love this shift in gears, considering both of these platforms that we've talked about that you're going to introduce as well. They can kind of be used together and marry very well. So just really excited to learn even more from you about Conquer AI.
Oh, that's brilliant. Well, I mean, I think we're just gonna like have a bit of a conversation, right? For a little while. I don't know how to share this on screen yet. Maybe I'll bring this off screen just for a moment. But like, I don't know how many of the people, maybe everyone can introduce themselves in the chat. I'd love to know if anyone out there has used Conquer. Well, thank you. Thanks, Rick. So at least we have at least one person who's used Conquer. So like I say, Conquer is Mote's little sister. We're just really, like a lot of people, fascinated by what's been happening with AI over the past 12 months. And just about this time last year, we started to think about building something of our own with AI. We'd seen these amazing things that people were doing with images, with photos, stable diffusion. Do you remember the first time we saw stable diffusion and the incredible things you could produce with it? And we've been aware of GPT, the platform, sort of technology behind ChatGPT for quite a while, but I think the quality had improved over time. So actually now you could use it and get pretty interesting and useful results out. And so we started to think about how we could apply that. And we'd seen with Mote being used in Google Forms, just how much time and energy goes into creating assessments for students. And we thought this was a really interesting place that AI could be applied, because it's still teacher facing. This is really important to us. We want this to be, a product, a tool for teachers. But we thought that it was somewhere where teachers actually, are spending a lot of time. It's cognitively difficult, right? Coming up with questions, especially with like multiple choice questions or complex multiple format questions, is actually really hard work. So we thought, yeah, this is an interesting problem space. And we started work on Conquer back in October and November of last year. I got the team together, built the first version, released it just before Christmas, and just after ChatGPT had been released. So it was I guess good timing in some ways, because suddenly overnight the amount of interest. I mean, you must remember like the first time you got to play with ChatGPT, Alex.
I sure do. And it was a little overwhelming, but at the same time, as I kind of just experimented a little bit, it was pretty easy to kind of figure out what I was looking for it to kind of populate for me or create from a prompt that I was putting in.
Yeah, I think that was what was amazing. Suddenly, this tool was super easy to use and to play with, and you could see kind of quickly how you can get like great quality product from it. Like you get really interesting output. It wasn't always 100% correct, but you can get great stuff. And I think that's what we've been learning over the past 6 or 7 months is how to use this technology in a way that is really helpful, but also you're not like over promising. I think this is an interesting part. And I was going to show this chart, and it's sort of like I don't know, there's a downer, but it's this famous chart that shows what's called the hype cycle of a technology, and lots of new technologies kind of follow this. This is from a company called Gartner, where it says like suddenly something happens with this amazing new technology. Everybody gets super excited about its potential, and it gets applied in a million different ways. And then you have what's known as the peak of inflated expectation. And then what happens is that you realize actually this thing, although I can see in the future it might be useful for these things, actually right now it's not quite there. And so you have something that's called the trough of disillusionment, which is either the users getting disappointed, sometimes the companies creating things get disappointed because the future isn't happening quickly enough. But over time, what you have is it called the slope of enlightenment, and eventually the plateau of productivity. Like so, and you see this sort of approach. You know, if anyone remembers, like the dot-com bubble bursting, right? Or maybe even the early days of mobile or social. Like you have these sort of excitement followed by trough, followed by okay, actually we're going to find this use. And I'm pretty sure that AI is going to follow this path. And I think, you know, I guess out there in the audience, everybody is thinking, what am I going to do? You know, how does AI affect me today? What do I need to do? Should I be adopting it in different ways? Is it a risk to me? Is it something that's actually going to help me? And I think a lot of people are on this journey, perhaps in different places. I'd say, you know, for us, we've been really excited to use Conquer. I'm obviously going to show a bit more about what Conquer is in a minute. So let's see what happens if I click that. Bear with me a second.
So, Will, as you do that, a question that comes to mind, and I've had some good experience on Conquer as well, kind of delving a little bit into some math tools that you're going to talk about a little bit later, taking a look at some of the pre-made quizzes that you can either create or you can have it based on you know, source information. How is Conquer differentiating itself from other AI tools that are so prevalent today in education?
Yeah, so Conquer, as I'm going to sort of talk through, is really just focused on, in a very clear way, about assessment. So there's a lot of great tools out there, people trying to do innovative things around ChatGPT technology or OpenAI, but we have decided to focus and go very deep on this question of assessment, and it actually resonates with quite a few of the conversations that we've had earlier today. Folks talking about feedback, folks talking about like the formative assessment loop and how do you help students learn more rapidly. So for us, that is the problem that we're trying to solve. We're trying to think, how do we make it faster to create really high quality assessments? How do we help students then get input and like the results of that more quickly? Initially, we're focused on like closed questions, but ultimately figuring out how to use AI to create high quality feedback that is in the voice of the teacher, so that as a teacher, you can feel confident to trust the AI to give that immediate feedback to students so that they, again, can accelerate their learning. So for us, there's this like very much a sort of focus on that clear point of difference. I think the other thing is, I'd say, as a team, right, we've been thinking about building great quality tools for teachers now for nearly 4 years. And along that way, we've learned a lot about what it takes to get a tool in the hands of teachers, to get adopted by schools, to solve all the sorts of the challenges that schools will have, right? Like things like COPPA and FERPA and GDPR compliance, things like admin tools, making sure this is something that everybody in the school can use. So we've been thinking a lot about that and partnering with schools and districts on building a tool that actually solves their problems. So for me, those are the things that really we're focusing on to differentiate. But I think there will be lots of great products out there in this AI kind of revolution. So I'm just really excited to be part of that.
Yeah, and I just feel like it's such a challenge as an educator, someone in ed tech, to really kind of figure out what are the tools that are going to provide the most bang for your buck, really going to allow students to have their voice heard or to have their, knowledge and understanding assessed in a clear-cut way that's very quick. So I feel like you've done a great job, even though are we still in the beta at this point, Will?
I'd say I'm no longer using the beta excuse for when things go wrong, Alex. So yeah, I'd say we're properly live. And we've had this amazing uptake. We've had now about 50,000 people use Conquer, and we've had about 200,000 quizzes and assessments created with the platform around the world. So that's been a fantastic way for us to sort of, test out the tool to see, okay, is this solving a real problem, which we're pretty sure it is, and then try and iron out the kinks. So amusingly, I have a screen over here, but it's decided to die on me, and I don't know how to reactivate it. So I'm just gonna move over to another screen. I'm gonna try and walk you through the demo I would have given on this other screen. So bear with me just 1 second.
Well, if you want to drop it into the backstage, I can always present it for you if you like.
Yeah, let me just grab my screen. Let's try this. All right. Okay, we can see this here, can't we? So, what I wanted to show. So this is Conquer.ai or www.conquer.ai, and you can see create awesome assessments in a flash. That's really what we're about. I'm going to click here to launch Conquer and go in. So what you'll see here is, for those who haven't seen Conquer before, we've gone for a very simple approach. Like you can start by typing any word in there and create your own assessment. But one of the things I wanted to show was we've got, just as an example of some of the things that you can do with Conquer. So one is you can create quizzes based off of extracts from a novel. So this is a novel, Animal Farm. And I could use this. I could grab any other extract from any novel. I could grab an extract from a website or even a textbook that I particularly like. And one of the advantages of this is that you've got, you've kind of got locked context, right? So you can ask specific questions about this. You can choose the different types of questions, and I'll show you what this looks like in a moment. So multiple choice or mixed questions. Mixed is like, we've actually really worked hard to create a set of like more engaging, higher depth of knowledge questions. So that's something which I think is definitely worth trying out. And then we have other question types I can show in a moment. And then we can also use this grade selector to actually tailor this to level of difficulty. So if you choose obviously high grades, different questions. We actually have support for a lot of different languages. Here I am in the UK. I'm going to use English UK. And I'm going to hit generate. You can just see how quickly this will generate questions. While that is going, I'm just going to show you, as we always say, one I prepared earlier. So if I click on this activity button here, you can see an example of a quiz that I generated a little earlier today. And this one I use this mixed type. And so if I were to present this, what you'll see is I have a couple of different types of questions. I've got this drag and drop type question. I've got what's known as a multi-select question. And then I've got multi-part questions down here, where part A is sort of asking a knowledge question, and then asking a student to identify which part of the text they use. So these are just examples of something I think for ELA teachers or social studies teachers, this is a great way to engage students. It's a great way to prepare them perhaps for some of the standardized testing that I know many states have coming up later this year. I'm going to go back here and just show you a couple other examples of things. So this is a more simple quiz. So again, really simple. It's about as simple as it gets. You choose photosynthesis as your topic question, and you'll get a selection of these multiple choice questions to go through. So what I'm showing you here, this is like in the Conquer view. I could actually show you this, and we can preview here. So this shows you what it looks like. Now, inspired by what we've done with Mote, we've actually got built-in read aloud support.
Question 1. What is the main purpose of photo?
So I don't know if you could hear that, but it's a nice crisp English UK accent here because it's made in the UK. But obviously we support different accents around the world and different languages. So you can create versions of this for your students if they speak Arabic or Spanish as a first language, and you want to accommodate that. The next thing, do you have any questions, Alex, on anything I've shown, or any questions in the chat?
Well, the thing that it's interesting that you brought it up, Will, I love the fact that there are different question types, and that's almost preparing our kids, as you mentioned, for those dreaded standardized tests that kind of instills those feelings in some of our students, where the more they use these quizzes that you're building on this platform, the more they're getting used to drag and drop and multi-select and other different types of questions like that. But for me, I saw you create a quiz based on source material. Any recommendations to people watching when you would kind of recommend just starting from scratch, letting the AI build it just on a prompt, or from source material? Where would you differentiate that?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, I would say that you're still going to get better quality output if you have a high quality text to start from.
And I think to myself, well, I think of like all those reading response, Fountas and Pinnell, what ELA teachers are doing. You could have them read the passage and then develop those questions right there.
That's exactly right. Yeah, like that. I mean, honestly, that was the first version of Conquer that we built was solely focused on that, because we know in that case, you're dealing with, we all know that some of these challenges of AI, there's this risk of hallucination, right? And one of the ways that we deal with that, I should say, is like, if you're unsure of an answer, we just have a simple link here that says validate answer with Google search. That will just pop open a new browser window to give you more, an opportunity to test that. Because I would say, again, we've built this for teachers to save you time. We think this can get you to 80 or 90% readiness, but you still have to do that, owning and reviewing the output. And that is true for any AI-based tool that you use, no matter what they tell you. We're all using the same underlying technology, and the underlying technology is amazing, but it has well-known limitations. So, I'm sure you've all heard this before, but it really remains super important to own your own output, right? As you would expect, a student, hopefully over time, students will use AI themselves in their work, and they will also be responsible for the quality of their output, right? We'll expect them to validate and check the sources and check the work and ensure that they're not just relying on AI for anything.
Yeah, it's a great strategy, Will, because, as much as, again, you shared that it's kind of just ready to go as soon as you enter that prompt, we still want to make sure that we're providing checks on the material. And I love the fact that we don't have to go anywhere. You're able to just click that link underneath the question.
Yeah, absolutely. I was just going to show you one thing. Maybe I'll go back to this. Let me go back to this animal farm example. And I don't know if you know, but we actually did a really nice integration with Google Forms. So you can output this. Let me see if this will share. Okay, so I may have to go share this particular tab. But this immediately outputs into, let me see if I can change, so I can add an additional tab to my screen. I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to change to the other one. So again, apologies, my original plan for this didn't quite work out. So here we go. Here I am in Google Forms. I've got my animal farm quiz. Now, what I will say is this is great if you're a Google Forms user and you've got it integrated and you're a Google Classroom school. This is a great way to go. And in fact, if you haven't seen, Eric Kurtz did a great session a couple of days ago. We released it, and he talks about using Mote with Conquer together and using Mote for read aloud within the Google Forms, which is great. But I would say one of the benefits that we have within the Conquer user experience is that you've got the text on the left-hand side, you've got the questions on the right-hand side, so the student can kind of see the text, see the questions. This format is actually used in quite a lot of the standardized online testing as well. So our UX is a little different, but still, this is a great way to do it. We support all these different question types. So this is a matching exercise. So it's not quite as elegant as the way we've done it within Conquer, but it's still really productive. And if I were to share that and preview it, you'd see this still works really well. And then within each of these, we've added all of the feedback, so you can see the students will get the points. They've got feedback if they get the correct answer, and then we give them the correct answer if they put the wrong answer in. So a lot of that work is done. I know it can be quite an exercise, quite a lot of work to sort of prepare those quizzes otherwise. I'm going to go back to my first share screen real quick. So there's a couple more. I've got a sneak peek behind the scenes at one really something we're really excited about, which is we are introducing a new type of question. So one of the things we've learned over the past few months, in fact, I'll start here. So one of the things we've done recently is we've built out a set of ready-made quizzes. Okay, so here I have, and if you go into Explore at Concord.ai, you can find a whole set of ready-made quizzes, and all of these are aligned to standards. In this case, these are the NGSS science standards, and I'm looking at middle school, but I could look at any one of these grades, and each one of these quizzes is mapped to a NGSS standard. I can see the definition of that standard here. So if I were to choose weather conditions, for example, I get a set of questions which are aligned with that standard. And we have had a lot of teachers engage with this already, and we're trying to work with teachers, as you can see here, is to actually build in a level of collaborative validation, right? So if you're a science teacher and you want to use this materials, by all means come in. It's totally available, but we would love for you to review these questions and say, hey, this one looks good, let's give it a thumbs up or no, and suggest an improvement if it needs it. So I just wanted to point that out. But when we were thinking about this question bank problem and we were talking to our users, one of the things we realized was we wanted to work out how to work with math, but we also realized that there were real challenges with using this technology, using generative AI with math. And if anyone's tried to use generative AI with math, you may know that there are problems. Have you tried using generative AI with math, Alex?
I have. The most that I've used generative AI for math is I really like trying to get it to connect to real world examples. Like if I'm struggling to kind of come up with something, I know kids are always going to ask me, why are we learning this? I've used it for that, but in my rare instance to try to create actual math problems, I feel like it was really lacking.
So one of the challenges is you can get quite creative output. However, the mathematical answers themselves, mathematical content is questionable, right? Because strangely, it doesn't have built-in kind of mathematical knowledge, right? It's still operating in this kind of predictive mode. So what we have done is we've combined an underlying mathematical engine to generate questions with using GPT to create stories and to visualize these questions. So I'm just going to click here. There's a whole brand new area. We focused initially on linear relationships. So this is a really important set of particularly sort of middle school and high school math. And we have generated a set of what we think are more engaging kind of question types. So you can see here generating, we've got graphical questions, we've got descriptive questions, and we've tried to localize these in a way that hopefully makes them relevant for students. And perhaps over time, we may add a little more, how can I say, variation. And I know we've seen some quite fun uses of telling stories with math around characters and so on. So I think we'll build that in. But for now, one of the cool things is I'm using this here in the UK. So you're going to see examples of a farmer in Manchester planting trees or a bakery in London making bread, right? So we will personalize and localize this to wherever you are. But just to sort of, show you while this is generating all the questions. So yeah, I have my 20 questions. A nice set of questions using this exactly. So we've got a really nice set of sort of different types of questions. Now we're still iterating on this a little bit, but we're hoping to launch this very soon. So we'll be sharing this out. So if you want to be one of the first users of this, we're going to be sharing a link at the end of this session. So please, scan the QR code and you'll get early access to our math offering from Concur, because we think this is something that we just think this is going to be really transformative. some of the things we want to do with this, we want to actually make it so that you can personalize, and every student can have their own set of questions, which are going to be totally unique. It means that every student is going to be challenged at their own pace. It also just avoids any risk the students are simply, looking at one another's answers. We hear that a lot. So yeah, we're really excited. There's a lot that can be done in this space using a combination of generative AI and some really thoughtful product design.
Well, I don't want to gloss over something that you shared with us, and that's the whole standards-based type of questions that you have built right into this platform. As a math educator, I can speak for myself, many others. If you're in a content area where you are being held to some sort of standard, some state standard or otherwise, the fact that that is built right into your tool is really effective and helpful, because you don't really have to do any guesswork as to the types of questions that are being produced. You know what it's going to be relating to. And I view myself as a teacher who is doing a daily launch and exit slip, that this would have been such a helpful tool to really just allow me to do it during my prep period in no time. And I feel like, I know you're advancing this platform so much by the day. I feel like if you could start kind of tracking those standards as a teacher and students' comprehension of those standards, and I'm sure this is probably an idea you've already come up with.
Keep talking, Alex. Keep talking. No, this is exactly right. So the sense that we get, and again, this is through conversations, but also, from we have amazing input from users, and I would encourage everyone who's using Conquer to keep that feedback flowing. As a school district, you're trying to track and see how are my teachers doing, how are we preparing towards these standardized tests. And as a teacher, you're looking to gather together, materials so that you can prepare your students, because you know your students better than anyone else, right? And what we are trying to do is make it so that teachers have complete control, but also that they can see, yes, and I'm getting them in the direction of these standardized tests. And as a school district, you can see, yeah, this all fits together. So I think that's the holy grail that we're trying to figure out, how to make really high quality questions super accessible for teachers, and then use that and without having to do all of this complicated, it's very hard right now to actually be able to say, yes, this question maps to exactly this standard, right? And if you do it for one question, okay, can you do that for 100 questions, right? That's a hard task, and nobody wants to do that work. The cool thing is AI is really good at that. Really good at that. So that's how we are approaching this, is letting the AI focus on the tasks that it's great at, and let teachers focus on what they are great at too.
And well, I will share this as well, and we're almost at the end of the first block of MoteCon. I can't believe it, but I saw how it imported directly into Google Forms. And my goodness, if you start incorporating Mote audio messages, you could create some extremely dynamic formative assessments, either based on source material or otherwise, that I would be excited to share those Google Forms with my kids, and maybe even do like a branching paths types of thing where you add in sections to really make it even more comprehensive. But to have those questions import directly in, and then be able to incorporate Mote as well to make it even more accessible, I just feel like that those dynamic assessments could really add to engagement and allow teachers to better understand their students' knowledge and understanding.
I really hope they do. Yeah, I think that's, again, the reason why we built Conquer was because of the insights we got from using Mote. So I think the two fit together, and I think there are other things I'd love to see us combine together using the power of voice within AI and within Conquer. So if you haven't already, do check out Conquer.ai. It's Mote's little sister, and I'd love to get your feedback. And I guess, is that a wrap on session one, Alex? Have we survived? I
like to think I've survived. I'll be getting verdicts, hopefully, from some of our friends who joined us today, Will. But I just can't be more excited, in addition to the knowledge that I gained today, to also gain from so many amazing presenters coming up right at 5 p.m. Central today. So anything else you'd like to share with us before I kind of lead us out, Will?
No, you said it all. Hey, thanks for everyone who stayed all the way through. Thanks for everyone who joined. We've got, I think if you just stay just for a moment, we've got, we'll just put the little QR code up on screen. If you grab that, if you want to get early access to Conquer, if you also want to get a certificate for attending this session, scan that and then just register in the Google form. But otherwise, we'll see you again in how many hours? Like
About 3.5
4.5.
I think.
3.5 hours. 3.5. Okay.
Well,
Fantastic.
thank you so much for joining us and sharing all there is to know about Conquer AI, providing that demo. I'm going to be checking it out this year in a new capacity, kind of sharing it with the teachers in Long Branch, and just really excited to be a part of the future session. So, Will, I can't thank you enough. While I still have you here,
I can't thank you, Alex. Everyone said, Alex, even the dog said, Alex, you did great. So,
well, if I've got Cora the Corgi on my side, I think I did a good job, Will. So I can't thank you enough for the opportunity. I'm going to close this out here, but thank you so much, and I'll see you again soon. Okay, Will?
Take care. Thanks, Alex. Bye, everybody. Thanks a lot.
He's the best, guys. So we've reached the end. I'm kind of in between here how I feel. I hope you enjoyed these sessions that I was able to lead as a Mote Ambassador Leader, but be sure to rejoin us at 5 p.m. Central Time for our next round of MoteCon 2023 sessions. I have no doubt the amazing Brittany Horn and the fab presenters will continue to bring the Mote magic later on today. Until then, I again cannot thank Will enough and the rest of the Mote team for this opportunity to present at MoteCon 2023. And I'll be tuning in throughout the rest of this fantastic conference and look forward to learning even more to close out day one. So have a great day, everybody, and keep up the Mote madness. Bye for now, everyone.